In this video, we are going to apply one of the very important type of collagen and making this interesting, very interesting challenge. What is the challenge? To keep the apple up in the air. Okay, so let's get started. Let's open a project in gamelab. I have already imported this sprite apple because the target is to keep the apple in the air. It should not come down. So to begin with, let's create this sprite variable apple. Maybe we will put it at somewhere this location 90 and 5. Let's keep x a random number and y could be in negative. So what I will do before creating a sprite, I will create a random number. Name it random x is equals to random number between 10 to 390. And where I am going to position this sprite now at a random x, and say for example y is minus 20. Okay, we need to give it a animation now. So set animation is the next command that we need to take care of. Okay, so the sprite has been created. Let's give it a little scale. Maybe I would like to scale it to 0.7. And the next sprite that we need to create is my paddle. So let's create the paddle. So how we will create the paddle? I want the paddle to be positioned somewhere here, maybe 35 and 350 to begin with. Okay. So this paddle is created and I would like it to be maybe 20 and 50. Reset, run and see. Okay, so not 20 and 50. It has to be 50 and 20. Okay, so my paddle is ready and this is also ready. If you notice here, I have not given any animation to the paddle. Rather, I have used these two variables. So when we create a sprite, generally we use only two variables, x and y coordinate. But here I am also using width and height coordinate. So the width is 50 and my height of the paddle is 20. I'm changing it to 15 and here I am changing it to 60. Okay, so we can also give it a color. We can directly give a color to this paddle. So this is something new you guys are again learning in this session. Okay, so if you don't remember the command, like, I was not remembering the command, you just say paddle dot color and this ID already hints me what is the command. So the command is shape color. So paddle dot shape color, let me put it as red. You can use RGB, you can also use hexadecimal values, anything you can use. For the simplicity here, I am just using red color. Okay, so I have my both these sprites ready. They are drawn as well. What next? Next, very simple, as you guys already know, what we will do, we can either use mouse pointer to move this paddle, or we can also use the arrow keys or A or D keys to move this mouse paddle. So let's move this mouse paddle, before which put up the background or paint the background, which is very important. Okay, I have painted the background. Now I will start moving this paddle. So, moving this paddle. So, we will move it via up and down arrow keys. So, I need to take key down event. Yes, I will take this key down event. Okay, if right is moved, what do we want? If right is moved, we want it to move towards right direction. So, it will become, something like this. Paddle dot x is equals to my keyboard, paddle dot x is equals to paddle dot x, say +5. Then the +5 will become its velocity. And similarly, if key down is left, We will have to say paddle.x is equals to paddle.x minus y. Let's test it. It is always advisable to keep testing your project in chunks. So yes, I am good. This seems to be working fine. My paddle is working fine. Oh, okay. What next? Next, I need to put up the bounce behavior. So my apple should bounce with this paddle. Before putting the bounce behavior, I should also give a velocity to apple. So I'm going to give a y velocity to my apple. So I will say velocity y is equals to we can give it a random number. That will be good if we give it as a random number. So I will declare a variable random velocity y is equals to a random number between, say, for example, between 5 to 10. Okay. And similarly, I can give it a random velocity x as well. Why I'm giving the random velocities here? Why I need to give random velocities? I can, this could be done with the normal, any number velocity as well, but I am giving random velocities here so that my, every time when we play this game, the velocities, the direction, everything is different. So I want to make it more challenging. That is why. Now, instead of giving any number to velocity y and velocity x, I will use these variables like this. Okay, notice one more thing. I have given a higher y velocity than higher x velocity. Why? It is because I want the apple to fall down. The apple should fall down. It is important for it to fall down. So y has to be more. Okay, so we have this paddle, we have the apple which is falling down. Now the challenge is to stop the apple from falling down. So what we will have to do, if we want the apple not to fall down, first thing it should bounce off from this paddle. Okay, so let's put up the code to bounce off. We know how to write the code of bounce off. So my source is apple and I will say apple dot bounce off with paddle. Okay, these are the two sprites. Apple dot bounce off. Let's see how does it works. Yes, it is bouncing off. But if you see, do you see the problem? What is happening? It bounces off. But after bouncing off also, it goes up. It goes up in the air. I think I should increase a little bit this speed as well. So my paddle is also faster according to the apple. Okay, so I will run it again. Reset and run. Yes, it is bouncing, but it is, if it goes up, it goes up. So what we will have to do, we will have to make sure that my apple actually bounces up from top edge, from left edge and right edge as well. So how do we do that? Okay, so how do we do that? So understand here. To do this, first thing we will have to make sure is we will have to create the edge sprites, which means my edges will act as a sprite. And when I create the edge sprite, actually 4 sprites will be created, which will have the names as left edge, right edge, top edge, and bottom edge. Okay, so how do I create the edge sprites? The command is this, create edge sprites. If I give this command, automatically 4 sprites will be created. 4 invisible sprites will be created, which will have the name top edge, bottom edge, left edge, and right edge. Now what we need to do, the way this apple is bouncing with the paddle, the apple should also bounce off from my top edge. So I will write here top edge. If you see, it is of type sprites. Top edge is of type sprites. And because I have already given the command to create the edge sprites, I have this top edge sprite available for me. Okay, then it should also bounce off from the left edge. Okay, and it should also bounce off from the right edge. Okay, we will not bounce it off from the bottom edge because that is the job of our paddle. Paddle will have to do it. So let's reset and run it and see how does it works. Yes, it is bouncing off. Oh, okay. Let's run and play it again. Oh, the apple is coming too fast actually. The apple is coming too fast. The apple is coming too fast. But yes, out. Let me first reduce this velocity y a little bit. And maybe this velocity x also, I will keep it 0. Let me keep the velocity y as 0. And let me have the velocity y maybe between 3 to 5, 3 to 7. Okay, that's okay. Okay, so if you see when this is touching, when this apple is touching with the sprite, what happens? It is actually not touching completely. The feeling of that touch is not there. There is a little distance and it bounces back. Why it is happening so? First thing, I will go to animation and check. This needs to be cropped. I will crop it. So there will be a little bit more refinement. Let's see if there is a little bit refinement. Yes, there is. I hope you enjoyed the session. In this session, we learn how do we create the edge sprites, how do we use the left, right, top and bottom edge sprites as well, what are their default names, and how do we bounce off an apple from the paddle. See you soon in the next session. Bye-bye.